We're not far from Ravenna, Italy, and are looking at the Basilica of Sant Apollinare, located in Classe, which is in northeast Italy near the Adriatic Sea. Caesar Augustus built this ancient port to defend Roman interests, and there was once a lagoon between Classe and Ravenna. Consecrated in 549 by Bishop Maximian, this church was dedicated to St Apolinaris, who lived in the 1st century, the earliest days of Christianity. St. Peter himself is said to have commissioned Apollinaris as the founding bishop of nearby Ravenna. As Christianity spread and became a greater threat to the Roman rulers, church leaders such as Apollinaris were persecuted. Eventually, he was martyred for his faith and buried in Classe. This church was erected on his burial site, and pilgrims would pass through on their way to Ravenna. The modest exterior of the red brick building is characteristic for this area and era. Pilasters, or rectangular columns projecting from the walls, and arches frame the windows. In the background and to the upper left is the bell tower. The church is renowned for its spectacular mosaic apse. The apse is semicircular on the inside and polygonal on the outside, a reflection of Byzantine architectural influences in the Ravenna area churches. The mosaics are original, making them close to 1,500 years old. On the very top of the flat wall, the face of Christ is centered with the tetramorph, or winged symbols, of the 4 evangelists to his sides. Below them are 12 lambs emerging from side openings. As our eyes leave the flat wall and move to the curved apse, we view the story of Christ's transfiguration, one of the 5 major events in the life of Jesus. His baptism, crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension are all frequently represented in early Christian art. Here, the mosaic focuses on Christ's transfiguration, where heaven and earth are connected as Jesus reveals his divine nature to 3 of his apostles. The hand of God reaches down towards a large gold cross, its sides next to the Greek symbols of Alpha and the Omega, or Christ, as the beginning and the end. Slightly above and to the sides of the cross are 2 Old Testament prophets, Moses and Elijah, who appeared at the Transfiguration as Christ became radiant. The apostles Peter, James, and John, who were present at the event, are represented by the 3 lambs in the middle of the mosaic. Below all of this is an earthly scene. The full figure of St. Apollinaris shares a field with 12 sheep, representing the 12 apostles. At the bottom, by the windows and on the sides, are images of regional leaders, bishops, and a biblical story. Let's look at a view of these scenes in closer detail. In the center of the arch, above the apse, we see a bearded Christ holding a jeweled book, the sacred Gospels. A halo surrounds his head, and he looks directly towards us, engaging us as he holds up a hand in blessing. To Christ's far right, or to our left, is a winged eagle, also holding a jeweled book, representing the evangelist John. The eagle is a spiritual figure of the sky, in keeping with the Gospel of John's representation of Christ's divine nature. Between John and Christ is a winged man, or an angel. This is the representation of Matthew, whose gospel revealed Christ's human nature. As we look to the other side of the arch, an image of a winged lion represents the Gospel of Mark. The lion is a symbol of both the monarch and of courage. And finally, on Christ's far left, we see a winged ox representing the Gospel of Luke. The ox is a symbol of sacrifice, of service, and of strength. Christ and the four evangelists are suspended in a sky of blue with red highlights. Below them are 6 lambs on the left, coming from a building that represents Jerusalem, and 6 more lambs emerging from a building on our right, representing the city of Bethlehem. At the top of the apse, we see the hand of God reaching down from a golden sky and parting the clouds. The gold mosaics are individually set at slightly different angles to enhance the reflection of light, glistening as our eye moves and as the outside light changes. The face of Christ is at the center of the jeweled cross. He is fully mature with a beard, but is not holding a book, nor does he raise his hand to bless us in this image, as the large jeweled cross symbolizes the transfigured Christ when his eternal glory was revealed. The blue sky around the cross is filled with gold and silver stars. Moses is on the left part of the mosaic, a half figure set in a golden or heavenly background. He looks youthful, he's without a beard, and he reaches out towards the cross. His name is spelled out in the mosaics, leaving us without doubt as to his identity. Moses is present as the guardian of the law. On the right-hand side, we see Elijah, considered the father of the prophets. His image is also a half figure set in a golden heavenly background. Elijah's face has a long white beard, indicating an older man, and his hand points with the 2 fingers towards the cross. According to Scripture, these 2 Old Testament prophets appeared at the Transfiguration when God the Father spoke, declaring Jesus his Son. Apollinaris is represented at the base of the composition, and he is set in an earthly landscape filled with trees and flowering plants. His hands are raised in prayer, and his head is surrounded by a golden halo. Again, his name appears in the mosaics. Apollinaris was considered the father of Christianity in nearby Ravenna. The figures between the windows are representations of 4 early Ravenna bishops who founded its main basilicas. Interestingly, they are posed in curtained arches. If you have seen our video of the Church of St Apolinaris Nuovo, located in Ravenna, you may recall the figures between the arches in Theodoric's palace were replaced because those images represented Arian Christians. Originally, they may have looked much like these figures. On the lower left of the apse is an image of a group of men. The primary characters have gold halos around their heads, with one exception. This mosaic represents the Eastern Emperor Constantine IV with his son Justinian II and his brothers Heraclius and Tiberius III. The emperor is offering the deacon Reparato, who is tonsured but does not have a halo, the privileges of the Church of Ravenna. On the other side of the lower apse area is a mosaic telling the Old Testament stories of Abel, Melchizedek, and Abraham. Abel offers a sacrificial lamb, Melchizedek offers bread and wine, and Moses offers his son. The offerings are traditionally interpreted to represent the sacrifice of Christ, and again, we see the hand of God reaching from the sky, accepting these sacrifices. When first built, the church was filled with mosaics, but of the originals, only those on the east end remain. Nevertheless, the rest of the building is architecturally beautiful and interesting. As with many church buildings of this era, the basilican interior has a central nave with aisles on either side. The aisles are defined by 24 elegant marble columns, and the side walls were once covered with marble panels. The marble was imported from Krokonissus, an island of present-day Turkey. Remember, Classe was an important port linking the Ravenna area to the resources and quarries of the Eastern Roman Empire. Each column is topped by a lovely variation of a Corinthian capital. Impost blocks inserted above the capitals are another Byzantine influence. Look closely and you will see the faint crosses that were sculpted on the imposts. They were probably painted. The little holes in the capital's foliage were purposely inserted to increase their realism. A few notes as we look at our closing video. The east end arrangement is not original, as a crypt was added later. So today there are more steps, and the floor is higher than when the church was first built. The spandrels and the oculi are newer, and originally plaster would have covered the brick walls. It's a very spacious building with wide aisles. The roof is newer, as is the floor. It was the Roman custom to bury people outside the city limits, so you will note the sarcophagi in the side aisles, as people would not have been buried in Ravenna at the time. The side door arches are set back, and their horseshoe designs are seen in Byzantine architecture, but not seen much in later buildings, perhaps because the east and the west would soon split. As with several other early Christian buildings in and around Ravenna, this church is on the UNESCO World Heritage list. I hope you have enjoyed this visit to the 6th century Basilica of Sant Apollinare in Classe, Italy.